friends, and welcome to your Daily Detroit. It is Friday, October 14th, 2022, coming to you from the Motor City. Usually across the table from me is Devon O'Reilly, but he is unavailable. He'll be back next week. In his stead, engineer Randy Walker. Randy, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Sir, you've brought booze.
We have Nordin Aquavit.
Ooh.
And it is the pink version.
Now, I remember the pink version from last year, and taking a little sippy sip, it's a little bit different this year.
Yeah, this year's bottles have a much more pronounced fruity, jammy strawberry flavor.
Now, this is one that you don't need to do like a super fancy cocktail with. Like, this is pretty straightforward, huh?
Yeah, just mix this with soda or tonic.
Okay. Now, good tonic really matters.
Yeah, I would go with something good like Fever Tree.
What would be your difference between your cheap gin and your cheap tonic versus your more designed for drinks?
You have better quality ingredients, more robust flavors. You get more of that bitter quinine flavor.
Okay.
A little less sugar. A lot of the bigger commercial brands have more sugar in them. A lot of people don't realize that tonic is actually quite sugary. The bitterness covers a lot of that.
Now, for someone who doesn't know Aquavit, we had the person behind Nordin, Robin Cleveland, on the show a couple of times, but it's been more than a year. It's actually been like a year and a half since he's been on. So if you don't know what Aquavit is, why don't you tell us?
Aquavit is a distilled spirit similar to gin, but instead of the predominant flavor of gin being juniper, the predominant flavor of Aquavit is caraway or dill.
This is just my take. It doesn't as much taste like Christmas trees in a bathtub.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the juniper flavor coming through. And then this is the pink version. So it has strawberries, rhubarb, rose, hibiscus. So it's got a much more fruity and floral note. And the fruit is much more predominant this year because that's just how the Michigan harvest was this year. The strawberries were sweeter and had better flavor, and that just goes through into the Aquavit.
Now, are you more of the pink special edition or the regular kind for yourself?
Ooh, good question. I always have a couple of bottles of each at home, so I'll switch it up between. Depends on what mood I'm in.
So if you're feeling fruity?
I'm feeling fruity tonight.
We usually do the Where We've Been. You've got a pretty good one that I've wanted to check out. So I'm going to kind of let you take the floor on this because you found another Tiki spot that I have not checked off my list.
Yeah, I went to the Iron Gate in downtown Wyandotte.
Now, what drew you to the Iron Gate?
So funny story, I was trying to go to another place and they were closed unexpectedly. So I just drove the extra 10 minutes to the Iron Gate. I had a drink there during the Wyandotte Street Art Fair. And so I knew of them, but I hadn't had the food before. So I decided to stop in there again. The drink was that good at the fair. So I came back for the food.
All right. So what you have?
I tried a bunch of small plates or like appetizers. They call them just bites on the menu. So the first dish I had was the elote churros. So these are churros, but instead of being sweet with cinnamon sugar and dip it in chocolate like you would normally see, they were savory and they were topped with sweet corn, cotija cheese. They had a cilantro lime crema. The churros themselves were savory and not sweet. They had a little bit of chili spice dusted on top.
Yeah, when you said elote, I'm like, oh, okay. That gave me a good hint. We're going savory with this.
Yeah, absolutely. And they were delicious. All of these plates were delicious. The second plate I had was the Korean disco potatoes, which were...
Did they come with a disco ball?
They're in the style of like disco fries. If you've ever had disco fries.
I don't even
with
know what
like
a disco fry is.
Cheese and gravy on them.
Oh, so like poutine. But
similar to poutine, yeah.
Okay.
But these were diced potatoes. They were nice and crispy. They had kimchi, cheese gravy, green onions. And then I actually added spicy pork belly to mine. It's an option. And then they also had some crispy nori on them.
Okay.
They were delicious. So a nice Korean flavor kind of wrapped around a comfort style dish.
Now, cocktail wise, you're a Tiki guy.
Yeah.
How does it rate?
It's really good, actually. So they have a Tiki drink, what I would consider a Tiki drink on the regular menu. But Friday nights and Saturday nights after 10 o'clock, they actually switch to a Tiki bar with a separate Tiki menu. Even the bartenders kind of get into the mood and change their clothes to wear Hawaiian shirts and things like that.
Oh, so it's kind of like got different personalities.
Yeah, exactly. From the regular menu, I had the Black Magic, and the menu actually has a little printed skull next to the name on the menu because it is quite strong.
Okay.
It is a house rum blend with Tiki mix, so a blend of fruit juices and things like that. Grenadine, pineapple, lime, and soda water.
Ooh.
And it was, I want to say, 3 or 4 ounces of spirits in this drink.
Now that's a lot.
That was a lot. And it reflected in the price. This was a $20 drink.
Okay.
Served in a fun tiki mug, the face.
That's one of the things with tiki drinks, too. Sometimes you might pay a little bit more, but you're also getting sometimes a little bit more alcohol.
Absolutely. Definitely worth the increased price. And then once the tiki menu came on, I had to give their Mai Tai a shot, and it was quite good.
Now, a good Mai Tai is important. A lot of places, you'd think that it would be hard to screw up a Mai Tai, but I have seen enough places do that.
Yeah, a lot of Mai Tais will use things like pineapple juice, grenadine, and that's not a traditional Mai Tai. A Mai Tai is rum, orange liqueur, lime juice, almond syrup, and then sometimes you'll get like a float of a stronger overproof rum on top.
Randy, we went somewhere together, though, and we both shared recently here a couple of great experiences. But this one,
this was not a good experience for a lot of reasons.
Okay, let's set the table. Media outlets all over town have been talking about this ZaBot. ZaBot. Pizza robot, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's in Southfield on Greenfield Road, just south of 13 Mile Road. And there was so much hype around this, people mentioning it on TikTok and all this other stuff. We decided that we needed to give it a try. Now, going in there, we didn't have high expectations, Randy. Like, what were your ground level expectations when we got in the car and headed out that way?
It's pizza in 3 minutes from a machine, so I was expecting somewhere between frozen pizza and a hot and ready.
So the process, I mean, it was kind of fun.
Well, it could have been fun.
I think the first thing we have to tell people is that this is not a sponsored review. And so we just kind of showed up with our own money and our own time. It was around dinner time.
It was around 7:30 p.m.
Yeah. And the first thing about this thing that annoyed me was, first off, I want this to succeed. I'll say this. I love gadgets.
It's a cool idea.
It's a super cool idea. But we got up there, and the only things we could have was the garlic bread, the garlic cheese bread, a pretzel, a cookie, or a cheese pizza, because nothing else was stocked.
Actually, we couldn't even have the cookie. The woman who ordered before us got the last cookie order.
Oh, that's right. We'll get into how we ended up tasting the cookie, because, we make friends where we go, Randy. Kind of walk us through what we saw.
So it's a kiosk in the parking lot of Capri Pizza, and you walk up to a large touchscreen, and you basically touch the screen and follow the instructions to pick your pizza, and then swipe your credit card, and it starts cooking a pizza for you right there in the parking lot kiosk. It's probably 4 feet wide by 3 feet deep, maybe?
Something like that. Yeah, I mean, it was easy to use.
Very easy.
Easy. Like the user interface, everything on point. I think the first thing to note is that the 3 minutes is going to be a variable time, because there was the preheating and then the clock started.
Yeah, the clock didn't start until after the preheating was done, and the preheating itself took a few moments.
Yeah.
And then the countdown clock started at, 4 minutes for ours?
Yes.
So the 3 minutes is a generous estimate.
Mm-hmm.
I am assuming that probably at least some of the items in the machine could be done in 3 minutes, but not our cheese pizza.
And we pulled it out. It kind of ejected the pizza out. You got to be ready for it.
The pizza comes in a box out of a little slot on the front of the machine.
Yeah, and that's fun. Comes out on like a little aluminum foil tray, and you've got a pizza in name.
It meets all of the requirements for a pizza, I guess.
So I feel a little unfair because we can get to try other things. We wanted to, we were ready to buy 3 pizzas and be like, let's do a pepperoni, let's do whatever. So all we could do is judge by this cheese. Randy?
This was a bad pizza.
The cookies, though. We didn't get the cookie the first time, but someone who actually follows us on Instagram, we ran into them, because they were ahead of us, and they were kind enough to share their cookie. Now, the cookie
was fantastic.
It was absolutely amazing. It had a little bit of crunch. It was soft in the middle. It was perfect. It was a chocolate chip cookie. You couldn't ask for anything more.
Yeah, They ordered the pizza or their cookies ahead of us. We waited for our pizza. We were talking for a while, and then they offered us a cookie, and the cookie was still warm and gooey in the center. Had a nice buttery vanilla-y flavor. The chocolate was melted perfectly. It was a great cookie, and it was warm. Like, I would go back to this machine for the cookies for sure.
100%. I would 100% do that. I think that there's a lot of potential with this, but I feel like they still need to like kind of tweak. And was it just like the flavor balance, or where did this go wrong for you?
The major thing for me is the crust.
Okay.
The crust tastes like stale toast in texture and flavor, really. Like, it's just white. It tastes like white bread. It's got a weird spongy, not quite chewy, not quite crispy.
Yeah, it's kind of in between here. So we have a piece here that we've taken back to the studio, and I'm somebody who I either like the Detroit style or I like the New York flop, right? I'm with Jon Stewart in like what a pizza is. Chicago style pizza, trash. But this is in this weird middle that I don't really understand.
It's about a half-inch thick uniformly, and then just a slightly raised edge around the outside, but ever so slight.
I feel like with this amount of topping, this need to be a thinner crust.
Crust needs to be thinner, needs a different texture for sure. My biggest, if the flavor was what it was, fine, but that combination of that boring flavor with that weird gummy texture, it just doesn't do it for me at all.
And let's be clear, we only could try the cheese pizza.
Yeah, and the other thing is, it was 7:30 at night on a weeknight. Why did you let the machine run out? It's popular, like people. It's in the news, so people are going to it. So
yeah, the parking lot was full.
Yeah, and people are coming in and out. I had one person ask me about it. I said, "Yeah, it's easy to order, but they're out of everything." So, at least for the first little while, make sure that thing is as full as possible at all times, just so you can get the word out.
One of the things that fascinates me about Detroit history is there actually used to be a retail spot in downtown Detroit way back in the day. It was actually called the Automat. And you could go in there and get sandwiches and automated made things and all that. I feel like this would absolutely be perfect. You'd put this on Wayne State's campus. You put this in a corporate campus. You put it outside of somewhere. I think there's a lot of potential here, but I feel like we just need to do a little bit of adjustment on the recipe here.
Definitely get a cookie. It's a fun experience to try the machine. Hopefully,
it was less than $10.
Yeah, this pizza was even.
It was $8.90.
Yeah, exactly. Cookies were $1 less than that, I believe. And, it was fun using the kiosk, ordering it, waiting. You could smell the pizza as it was cooking.
Like everything but the final product was on point.
And the availability of what we could order.
Right.
But everything in between, from after we ordered to before we got the pizza, was great.
All right, before we let people go, there has been progress with the word that a city Target will be coming to Mack and Woodward in Midtown Detroit. That's over there by the Detroit Medical Center, Wayne State, right across the street from the Starbucks there. There's a bunch of new residence buildings that have been going in. You really can't miss that corner if you're familiar with Woodward. This project would involve 16 stories of residences with 270 units. Some of them would be set aside for affordable housing. But the key thing about this, the thing that a lot of people are going to be interested in, yes, the apartments, yes, more than $30 million in incentives that are going to be needed to do this because there are a ton of issues to mitigate with the ground here. I remember, in fact, back in the day that there used to be a car repair shop. I remember years ago. So there's a lot of remediation that needs to be done. But on this site will be a city format or a small format Target. Target rolls these out in colleges, in urban areas. They're about a third the size of your normal Target. And it looks like construction, according to Crane's Detroit Business, would begin in December and wrap up in late 2024. That would mean that we're a couple years away still, but a city Target in Detroit, a lot of people are excited about it. I remember when it was first announced this could be an idea, the traffic and the buzz and everything else. What are you looking for in a Target? Is this something you would use? Because you're a city resident. You're over in the West Village. Would you drive down for a Target like this?
I would at least check it out. Right now, I'm driving downriver to Ellen Park or Taylor for Target, or sometimes I'll go north to Madison Heights. But I would definitely check out a more conveniently located Target for sure.
Now, I've visited some of these smaller format Targets before. They tend to be more of like a condensed thing where they have less selection, but it's all based on what that particular neighborhood wants. So it's going to be interesting to see what they find that their mix of people want. It's right across the street too from the Whole Foods. So there is not only new residents that are going there, you've got a Target in a city that doesn't have one really. And then you've got the situation with Detroit Medical Center bringing all kinds of people to it, and then Wayne State bringing all kinds of people to it. So I think the odds are in its favor, especially considering all the incentives and everything. I just hope that it lives up to the hype because people want to see this thing.
Yeah, my main reasons for visiting Target are usually clothing and home goods. So if they have an adequate selection of those things for me, I'll definitely go to that one for sure.
Yeah. I'd be interested to see what your expectations are for a Target in the city. dailydetroit@gmail.com. Would love to hear from you. I mean, I feel like Target is a part of almost everybody's life at this point. Now, I know a lot of people are like, hey, I don't want to do chains or whatever, and I respect that. But I feel like at some point, everyone breaks down and ends up going to Target for something.
Yeah, and it's Target, so you can't just walk out with the item you intended to get there. You have to walk out with at least 3 other things.
Somehow I ended up with like 3 flavors of mouthwash once.
Or, let me just check the clearance rack before I leave.
That's an addiction, sir. The clearance rack is an addiction. All right, we are done for this week. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks to the team, Fletcher Sharp, Cheyenne Nocerini, Luciano Marcone, Devon O'Reilly, and of course, Randy Walker, who isn't always sitting across from me, but is today.
It's always great to be on this side of the microphone.
With that, I'm Chair Stays. Remember that you are somebody. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you around Detroit.